I don't think the question is, are we enough? I think the question is supposed to be, is Jesus enough for us? Because that was the whole point of Jesus. It was that Jesus is enough because we are not. So I think the enemy has had us distracted for so long asking the wrong question, trying to be obsessed with becoming enough ourselves that we forget that that actually wasn't our job ever, and we can put that down with peace.
Well, maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, weighed down by expectations, stuck in indecision. Maybe you're told that you should have it all, but you have that inner terror that one wrong move and it's all going to come crumbling down. Hey, on the podcast today, we have Misty Jordan.
Hello.
Our podcast producer, Sally Barton.
Hello.
And my name is Mike Kankelfritz. Our guest today is Ligenza Gwynn, and the book is called That's Just Not True, How to Replace the Lies You Didn't Know You Believed with God's Unchanging Truth. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. I'm an OG blogger, as they say. I'm a content creator. I'm a podcaster. Now I'm an author, and I'm a mom of 2 with another on the way. So that's the short version.
Oh, boy. Fun. When's your baby due? We got to ask that question.
Right? Beginning of February 2026.
Okay. Awesome.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, way to go.
Well, this book is really exciting. I think that we all need to hear the truth that it's just not true. The things that we tell ourselves and believe. So tell us some of these lies that we're going to overcome and talk about. They actually became your chapter titles.
Sure. So inside the book, there are 17 lies, but I also like to say half-truths, because I think the important thing that a lot of us forget is that that's kind of how the enemy works. Not everything that we are given is going to be this blatant, obvious, of course that's a lie. Some of these things look and sound pretty good. And they're things that we've heard from society, from social media, even from our church communities, our friends and family. And they might sound positive and empowering and encouraging. So you might read the table of contents and think, wait, what? That feels like God would want me to believe that. But what I did in this book was dive into what the Bible actually has to say about it, to see where we might be cutting ourselves short, where we might be believing something that felt good at first glance, seemed like it might have been godly, but ultimately has us missing out on a true sense of freedom and a deeper sense of fulfillment that is actually what God has to say to us.
Wow. Yeah, isn't that so true? Because my eye immediately went down to number 5. If I'm not hustling, I'm lazy. Wow. That one, I was like, okay, let's just skip everything and go straight there. So
Sure.
These are just very practical that I think a lot of us can go, yep, all the way through all 17.
Well, and I put them in quotation marks on purpose, right, on the table of contents, because they're things that have gone through our heads, and that's probably how it's sounded to us, whether it was our own internal dialogue, whether it was something that we believed maybe from childhood. I know for me, a lot of these came from things that I believed since I was in the 4th grade. Like it really took a deep root. And you might not even consciously realize it, that you are now a grown-up walking through the world still believing these things about yourself or about God. And when you say it out loud, you might go, wait, logically, no, that doesn't fit. But then when you go deeper into the chapter, that's what we try to unpack, is like, actually, this might be in there somewhere that you're believing this. And it's not, it's time to rip the root.
Uh-huh. So which of these did you struggle with the most?
Probably I am enough. And that one I think is also a controversial one. Some of these might step on folks' toes, but I think that one I struggled with a lot, because as a recovering people pleaser, recovering girl boss, I found myself where I think for years of my life, I was striving for that gold star. I wanted somebody to validate me. I wanted somebody to say, you did it. Congratulations. You reached the finish line. You did a good job. You're enough. And something in the pit of my soul just kept going, you know what? I don't think this is what God wants for us, I think we've set ourselves up for failure, because there will always be more to do. There will always be more we could do. There will always be more we could achieve. It is a moving target, a moving finish line. Everybody has a different definition of what it means. Everyone has a different measuring cup, and it's a moving target. And I don't think the question is, are we enough? I think the question is supposed to be, is Jesus enough for us? Because that was the whole point of Jesus. It was that Jesus is enough because we are not. So I think the enemy has had us distracted for so long, asking the wrong question, trying to be obsessed with becoming enough ourselves, that we forget that that actually wasn't our job ever, and we can put that down with peace.
Ooh, man, that's good. And this is a perfect lead-in, because you talk about living in that constant tension of being told you're too much but never enough. And you said that was kind of the breaking point that led you to knowing you needed to write this book in the first place. Talk about that, if you would.
Yeah, I think that is kind of a classic overachiever mindset for folks like me. I mean, I came from being the top achiever growing up. I was valedictorian in high school. I did everything you could possibly do. I went to an Ivy League school. This was like, the whole thing was, oh, Erica, she's too much. She's too in everything, too whatever. But I also always felt like I was never enough. I was never in the friend group that I wanted to be in, or I felt like I could never actually achieve some sense of acceptance that I felt like I was longing for from other people. So I was looking in all of the wrong places. And I think that's what I think a lot of people who maybe are in similar shoes or know what it felt like to be the overachiever or the perfectionist, where you were always kind of striving to be validated in some way. That's kind of where that came from. Is it's exhausting. You burn out from it, and you reach a point in your life where you're like, hold up, what am I doing this for? Why does this matter? Is this even the right path anymore? Because I'm just so tired. And this doesn't feel like this is the abundant, full life that God promised me. And I just can't do it anymore. So that was kind of where a big root of it came in writing the book. Because especially now that I'm a mom, I'm looking at my daughter and I'm going, I want something different for you. I don't want you to grow up facing the same things that I faced or feeling the same things that I felt, especially if that's not even true. I feel like it's my job and responsibility to unpack that myself so that I can unpack it for her, because she'll have all of her own things to go to therapy about in the future that I'm sure I'll do wrong along the way too. So I'm trying to do what I can to limit that for her.
You know, one of your chapters is called God Won't Ever Give You More Than You Can Handle. And I felt like that's misquoted. I felt like in my own life, I can't handle this, God. Must be a lie. First of all, maybe qualify that statement, but you've got a story that backs this up too. Talk about that.
Yeah. I think what a lot of these chapters will do is they'll position something for you that maybe you won't fully understand until you've experienced it yourself and can realize, like, okay, this isn't true. For me, that came from the birth of my daughter. She's 6.5 now, and she was born at 32 weeks. She was 3 pounds, 0.1 ounces when she was born. She was in the NICU for 73 days. We both almost died. So spoiler alert. I had severe preeclampsia, and yeah, she was an emergency C-section. And that story we unpack right off the bat in chapter 1, because God 100% gave me more than I could handle. And for us, I mean, that looked like, it was very obvious for me at that point, because there was literally nothing I could do. I was laying on a table dying. So there was no, Erica's going to figure this out. Erica's going to handle it. I was completely dependent on other people. I was completely dependent on God working through other people to help me. Because it was not going to be something that I was going to step out of and figure out and make happen on my own. So I think it's really pointing to, sometimes we will be pushed to a point of complete dependency on God, or complete dependency on other people, where it's their opportunity to be the hands and feet of God for others. Literally it was to save my life, but it might not be that, hopefully it won't be that dramatic for others, but sometimes it is. And I think sometimes that's how we learn the lesson he needs us to learn. So at least I'm here today.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that one. Yeah, my wife and I have a similar path with our first doctor, which was, I just call him a bad doctor. My wife had undiagnosed preeclampsia.
Yeah.
So the umbilical cord had actually ruptured from that high blood pressure, and that's why a daughter had cerebral palsy. And she passed away last summer. But with our son, we had a very good doctor who took all the precautions, did everything the way you should, actually took, like in your situation, took him early, and they just call it they call them wimpy white babies because all they do is eat and grow. That's actually what they call them in the NICU. So he's totally fine. He's typical. But in both of those situations, it was way more than we could handle. But yeah, I think with God, with Jesus, that's where the statement comes in that's true. With, if you're clinging to Jesus, if you're clinging to God, he helps you handle the situation. But I think in life, the truth is, life is not supposed to be handled on your own. Popular belief is we're supposed to Lone Ranger all of this, and you can do it on your own, but you can't.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that's where quite a few of these might come in and feel like they're stepping on toes, because it feels kind of anti-boss babe culture, because it's kind of saying, you know what, maybe it's time to take off the superhero cape. Maybe it wasn't our job to put it on in the first place, because that kind of defeats the point of the gospel. We don't actually have to be the hero in the story. And so for as much as society has been trying to be maybe empowering or lifting us up in some capacity, what I'm really trying to do is point us to, okay, there's a degree to which you can be lifted up, but we cannot forget where the source of our power and strength is coming from, because it is not because of us that we are able to do these incredible things. And I think sometimes we're forgetting that as a culture. We're forgetting that individually, and then we're wondering why we're so overwhelmed when we're like, wait a minute, I can't do it all. This is really overwhelming and exhausting and painful, and I've put all this pressure on myself. And I think sometimes you just need to hear, like, hey, you didn't actually need to put the pressure on yourself in the first place. You could step off the gas pedal a little bit, and your car will still be okay.
You used the word empowerment. So what's the difference between worldly empowerment and true freedom through God's truth? Talk about that.
I think a lot of worldly empowerment will point us back to us, and that it's because of something in you that makes you great. You're empowered because you have this strength in you, or you have these abilities, you have something in you. Whereas I think it's if it's not saying that it's Jesus in you, then that's, I think, where it's failing us, or where it's falling short. Because the world is never going to say it's because it's Jesus in you that is what makes you great or what makes you strong. It's always going to turn it back to the self. And it's why we have such an obsession with self-love, self-help. You can do it all yourself. It's all the self. Whereas I think the truest, best, ultimate form of empowerment that we can come is when we realize, actually, I can't do it all myself. It's not just about myself. There is so much more out there. And then we are linking arms in partnership with God. And that's where we unlock the potential that goes beyond what we can even imagine, because his potential and creativity is well beyond ours anyway.
Yeah, I love that, because we are the ones that put those expectations on ourselves, which is your exact point, it being all about self. I never really thought about it quite that succinctly. So yeah, thanks for that. There's another word that we use, the word just. And my goodness, I got to this chapter and I was like, uh-oh, this one's for you, girl. You use the phrase, words we say matter, and how we introduce ourselves, for instance, with, well, I'm just you fill in the blank yourself, and maybe you all listening can be shaking your heads at the same time going, oh no, where's this going? Because I do it all the time. How do we recognize that we're not believing in what God is doing in and through us? My own summary.
I think first step is actually paying attention to the language you're using, especially when you're talking about yourself or what you're doing, because a lot of us do that subconsciously, specifically with the word just. I know there are so many times where I'm typing an email and then I immediately have to backspace because I'm like, we're not saying we're just following up. We're not just anything. We are allowed to be there. So you just have to start paying attention to how often we're using it as filler language and how often we're using it to justify, I guess pun intended. We're using it to we're like justifying our existence or justifying what we do or who we are because we, for some reason, feel like it's less than, or we feel like it's not good enough, or there are other insecurities or something attached there that we're projecting and just handing on a plate to other people to say, hey, this isn't as important, or it's not as cool, or it's not as whatever, for whatever reason. And I think sometimes even just paying attention to how often we are doing that is like your first warning bell going off to say, okay, I think there's something to unpack here, because I might think differently of myself than what God says about me, or I might be thinking of my situation or my season or my circumstance maybe not in the best light. So let's dive deeper into that and figure out what's the root.
I think
Guys, you know
that's
where I
what.
hear just the most?
What?
When we pray. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Lord, will you just do this? Just do that. I've noticed more when we pray than any other time. People
Wow.
praying and they throw that in there. Will you just do this?
That's
No,
ouchy,
just do it.
Hank. That is really ouchy.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Or even in describing yourself, I'm just a sinner. I'm just somebody who messes
Right.
up, Lord. Yeah.
Exactly.
We're belittling what God is doing in and through us, aren't we? Aren't we just in another really unattractive way looking for somebody to compliment us? I'm like blown away right now. Ouch. That's all.
I don't care for that revelation. Okay. Thank you.
I said it's gonna step on toes, but hey, it's we do it to ourselves where it's like an attack on what we're doing, or we do it to the position we're in. It's like, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just a barista. I'm just whatever, and it minimizes the opportunity that is in that season or in that position for God to work in it. It's like we're saying, oh, that's like it's lowlier than where I should be or where I could be or what's truly in store for me, instead of acknowledging and recognizing it still as a very big and very ample opportunity for God to do whatever he needs to do for you or through you in that capacity.
Totally what I'm hearing right now.
I'm so sorry. I just have to say this real quick because it dawned on me as you were saying that, Kank, another place that we say that often where we could actually be diminishing the capacity in which God is using us during fundraising. We say, God does all this. We're just in the room. But God put us here in this room.
That's true.
To use us, despite the fact that we're completely messy people. All right. Moving along, Sally.
Well, you're welcome for all of that. I'm glad we could share. And here's one more Sallyism. I messed up. I totally messed it all up. I deal with a lot of details, as you can imagine, scheduling, putting everything together. Everything has to flow like an engine. And when it doesn't, I'm like, oh, I messed up. And you're going to take me to task for that one, too? Tell me about it.
Sure am, Sally. Oh, this one I had fun writing because I had a lot of fun diving into scripture on this, because it's the details for me, like the details that God put together in this. So I guess some backstory on this chapter for anyone who has not come across it yet. It unpacks a little bit of Genesis 38 in the Bible with a character named Judah. And if you are unfamiliar with this story, Judah tells his middle son to sleep with his firstborn son's widow and give her a son, which was pretty customary in the time. But the middle son prevents pregnancy, dies for his wickedness. Judah promises his youngest son now, and eventually, as he grows up, Tamar realizes that Judah doesn't plan on keeping his promise. She pretends to be a prostitute. She sleeps with Judah, who is her father-in-law, and gets pregnant with twins. So you look at this, and then you fast forward to the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verse 3, and it says, Jesus came from the line of Judah. And if that isn't a perfect representation of how goodness, here literally a message can come from your mess. I mean, the literal Messiah came from this Hot Mess Express from the book of Genesis. So I look at that and I just laugh because I think, gosh, if the Old Testament so often to me feels like reality television. It's like, it's wild where you're like, wait, this is the Bible? Like, what is this? And you read that and you're like, wow, but look at the good that still came from that. And that is how the book of Matthew kicks off, is like, Jesus came from the line of Judah. And I read that and I thought, that's the redemption story there, because God was like, look, if that's not too messy for me to do something really good with, give me your best shot. Give me your best mess, because I bet you I can still do something really awesome with it. And that's, I think, why, I mean, who are we? What mess are we doing that's messier than what Judah got himself into, that God can't use something in our story too?
Well, yeah, let's talk about David if you want to for a little bit. I mean, I think so many people are missing the realities that are portrayed in Scripture. And so just to wrap this all up, next time things don't flow as they should, Kank and Misty, just say, I'm just going to tell you, I didn't mess up. God's at work, and he's got a different, he has a different
There you
plan.
go.
That's constant work.
Erica said so.
I like that. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to use it regularly.
You can steal it.
We kind of touched on this earlier, but hustle culture messaging, very prevalent. And I know circles of Christian women of faith, like we wear that as a badge. Like we can hustle like nobody's business. We're real proud of our ability to hustle. Why do you think Christian women can be so susceptible to that messaging?
Because I think our hearts are in the right place and we really want to do what God wants us to do. And I think a lot of us might be people pleasers. We were the good girls growing up. We want to make people happy. We want to steward things well. We want to show up well. And that can become really confusing as to what that means and what that looks like and how we're actually supposed to be doing that. I mean, it makes me think of Martha and Mary in the Bible. Like, Martha was not wrong necessarily for what she was doing. She just didn't have the full picture. It's like, I'm like, Martha was she was like trying her best. She was probably like dusting her baseboards to make sure that when Jesus came, everything was like tip top shape. And it wasn't that she was sinning. It wasn't that she was totally off. It was that she ultimately just missed out a bit. And she missed out on the fullness that she could have compared to her sister sitting at Jesus's feet. So I think that's kind of where that tension is, where it's like, it's not that we're totally off in wanting to work hard, in caring about how we're showing up in the world, about trying. Like, that's not bad. It's just if that becomes an idol for us, if that becomes our priority instead of still sitting at the feet of Jesus, then that's where we get it twisted and we're missing out.
That's good. Well, and yeah, so healthy ambition and hustling, I think we so often get those two things confused, or like the toxic part of the hustle culture. So what are some things that would define healthy ambition as opposed to the other?
I think it's going to look different for everyone, because what is healthy for you is going to be different than what's healthy for Sally, different than what's healthy for me. So I think it is a partnership where you have to be willing to sit and talk to God about it, to see, okay, what is actually required of me right now in this season. You have to be willing to let that change and acknowledge that we all have seasons. So what looks like full speed ahead right now is not the pace that you should be or could be going at maybe next season. And if you're not willing to kind of reassess, take your foot off the gas, adjust, and go with the pace that he is pacing you at, that could be a sign that, okay, this isn't healthy anymore, because I'm trying to captain this ship. I'm being the driver when I should kind of be in the passenger seat, and I should be like managing the GPS and like doing other things here too, besides just going full speed ahead, go, 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 let's do it. So I think that's one big way to kind of keep yourself in check, and to also just pay attention to how you're actually caring for your soul. Because this is something I talk about in a later chapter as well. But our culture is so obsessed with self-care. But if self-care is this quick fix that is just constantly at the expense of soul care, we will never feel truly rested. We will never truly be at the place where we have been filled up by God, where we even can be filled up by God, because we just keep getting these quick dopamine hits, or these like quick one little things to get us, just to like get us by a little bit, instead of giving ourselves the grace and space to sit back and go, okay, I actually need to rest. I actually need to stop and like Sabbath or not do something for a hot second, so that I can fully recharge, instead of getting these like quick bursts all the time to just get a little farther, little farther, little farther.
That's good. Talking with Ligenza Gwynn. Her new book is That's Just Not True, How to Replace the Lies You Didn't Know You Believed with God's Unchanging Truth, which I love this topic, period, because let's face it, the enemy is the father of lies. The world is full of them, and we believe a lot of them. You mentioned the fear that one wrong move, it's going to all come crumbling, crashing down. How does this anxiety manifest in our lives?
I think we all know what it feels like to a certain extent, because we all have that thing that we've held on to really tightly, because we feel like that can get taken away, or it's the thing that can get messed up. And I think if we're being really painfully honest with ourselves, sometimes that might point to kind of where our faith is instead of in Jesus, because we're like gripping for control, really trying to like hold on to this thing, because we fear that it's gonna go, or like we're the one that's ultimately in control of its destiny. So you just kind of know it, because it's like, it's that thing for you. Like, I think we each have our own version of that. It might be like a specific job that you've had, or a specific relationship that you've had, or just any of these various things, a house that you really wanted, and that's the thing you got, and now you're like desperate to hold on to it for fear that you won't have it anymore. It's like, it's going to be something different for each person. And I think it points to maybe where we're lacking a little bit in faith, or where we don't think that God's going to show up for us, or maybe where we've felt a little jaded by God in the past, where we felt like we were overlooked, or where we felt like he didn't show up for us. So we were the ones that had to buckle up by our bootstraps and make it happen, and we figured it out. So now that we've got it, we better not mess it up, because we got there. That's, I think, the feeling that you feel, and you're like, nope, I got this. My hands are on the wheel. I'm white knuckling it, because I'm not letting anybody else in control of this ship. And if you feel like that towards something in your life, that's where you're wrestling with God for control over and surrender over that specific thing.
Ooh, I just feel like I read somebody's mail right now. That's good. I mean, that really, when you think about it, I think, and there's little areas of our lives, a lot of us are like that, this is going really good right now, or I don't want to mess this up. But the truth is, no one's in control. He's the only one in control. And I think that's sometimes we can use God's in control in the wrong way too, but the truth is we allow him to be in control, and that's where he can take over and really do some good things there. When someone realizes that, let's say I'm believing one of these lies, what's the first step towards freedom?
Good question. I think it comes with being really honest with yourself, step one, because that can be uncomfortable and it can be scary, because I know for me, I had placed my identity in some of these things. So for me, it was like, hold up, who am I if I am not this, or if this isn't true? It can be really alarming and kind of disillusioning. So giving yourself grace and being honest with yourself, like, okay, this is a thing that I've had in my heart. And then just really openly and honestly and humbly bringing it to God and saying, okay, I realize that this is something that I need to work on. And I think just honestly ask him to help you work on it, because he is the God of truth. So he is going to reveal to you, like, yeah, that was there. And like, that didn't need to be there. Let's unpack that together. And trusting that this isn't going to be like this quick fix. I think that's important to stress with this book too, is it's like, this is not some path. This isn't like a path or a guidebook to this wild sense of freedom or some finish line where you're like, I did it. I figured it out. I figured God out. Like I will never have to stress about any of this ever again. Like anyone who's selling you that is lying to you. That's just not true. Not to play on the title, but like that's not true. I think it's being willing to like go little by little, step by step with God. Like, okay, let's unpack this one together. And knowing that, like, you're probably going to come up against it again. But if it's starting to lose its footing, which is the goal, it's starting to have less of a hold on you, give yourself some time, give yourself some grace, and you will start to realize that it doesn't have the same grip on you as it used to. It doesn't give you the same sense of anxiety when you're thinking of that thing or wrestling with that thing. You start to feel a little bit lighter, and you'll start to feel a little bit freer, where you're like, okay, I trust God more in this, or I'm a different person than I was when I was going through this. And it's not this thing where you'll wake up completely different, but one day you'll wake up and be like, oh, he was doing the work in me all this time.
Sounds like that makes sense that this would be an ongoing struggle, because if the enemy is trying to continually to keep you from the truth and keep you, in lies, it's going to be something you're going to deal with the rest of your life.
Yeah. I see this in the
I'm not putting a
conclusion.
damper on anything.
No, I think, but it's about taking back the power in that too, though, because I talk about this in the conclusion. Right. It's like, he's still going to try to hand you the rotten fruit. He's still going to try, like he did all the way back with Eve. Yep. He's still going to try and say, look at this. Look how good it looks. Look how good it sounds. Don't you want to take a bite? Like, he's still going to try to pass you the fruit. It's just you're going to feel a lot stronger in being like, no thanks, I'm actually good. I don't need it, because I've got fruit ninefold over here with the fruits of the Holy Spirit. We don't actually need this bad one that you're trying to sell me. So I think it's just that, like, you can't expect bad fruit to not cross your path anymore. You're just going to get better at recognizing them when you see them, and you'll feel your own resolve get stronger to be able to be like, actually, I don't believe that anymore, and I'm good.
And look around yourself, because as I'm listening to you, I'm going to use a weird analogy, but this is a beautiful cocktail, if you will, of humility, as well as saying, yes, look at what God is doing in and through my life. And I think about the fact that as we're experiencing these lies, as you call them, the 17 of them, there's a lot to think about who's around us, who's watching our reaction, who's listening to what we're saying. As a parent, our kids are in the midst of more than we know. They're hearing, they're seeing. So how do we balance that kind of freedom in front of our kids, whether we're the father or the mother or the grandparent? Somebody's watching. as we're trusting God with this and looking for that tightrope of balance. Maybe that's better than saying cocktail, but
No, and as you're answering this story, just think about cocktails.
stop. I knew I would regret it. Hey, can I go back to my question a few minutes ago? I messed this whole thing up.
Yeah, no, it makes me think of one chapter in particular right away, because it really started with something I was doing with my daughter. So we were doing little affirmations when she was in preschool. And every single day we would start the day and we would say, I am strong, I am smart, I am brave, I am kind, I am important, and I can do anything. And it was adorable. She was 3, and like, you just know this energy was contagious. But the more we did it, the more this feeling kind of grew in me, where I thought, okay, on one hand, we're doing this. It feels great. It sounds great. Other people are encouraged by it and seeing it. Okay, cool. On the flip side, I thought, well, here I am. I'm also telling her that mommy's always going to tell her the truth. Like, you're going to have all sorts of these experts in elementary school, and spoiler alert, their expertise is not quite there yet. So come to mommy for the fact checking here, please. And coming from our background and our story with her, how premature she was, our time in the NICU, it was also a very real medical reality that there would likely be some hurdles that she would come across at some point in her life that felt pretty insurmountable. And maybe I can do anything wasn't the message that I actually wanted her repeating every single day, because I thought, man, what happens when we get news from a doctor and it's like a limit for her and she can't get over it or can't go through it, can't pray herself out of it, and she just has to face this. I don't want that to be like this earth-shattering reality where she goes, wait, mommy was lying to me this whole time, or like this was all just a bunch of baloney. So that's, I think, where that really kind of was like, okay, I got to think through this on a different level, because is God saying we can do anything? Is that even what we should be encouraging our children? And that spawned a lot of that for me, to like change the way that I'm even speaking about certain things to my kids, so that it's not something that just feels good to a room full of kindergartners, but is something that they can actually sink their teeth into, so that as they get older, they're not like, well, that wish upon a star didn't come true, and it's not this like shattering reality, but it's actually like, no, it's okay. I'm not actually meant to do anything, but I could do hard things. I can do hard things that are put in my path, and I can do certain things, but there might be things that I can't do. And that does not mean that God made a mistake with me. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. It just means that, guess what? I actually wasn't made to do anything and everything on this planet. Nobody was. And that's okay.
Good.
Thank goodness.
Right? Like, this is when I'm like, phew, what a relief.
Yeah.
Like,
Right? Exactly. I love this get out of do anything pass that you've given us. I'll take it. You challenge the idea that our feelings are our truth, which I think logically we know to some extent that our feelings lie to us all the time. But how can we, I guess, in a healthy way, navigate our emotions without dismissing them? Because it seems like kind of a fine line sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
totally. I think first step is acknowledging your feelings are real, but if your feelings are not based on reality, they may not actually be valid. So we have to just be willing to look at them through a different lens, to be like, okay, it's very real and very fair that I feel the way that I do, but really, why do I feel the way that I do? Is it based on reality, or is it based on a story, like a story that I grew up thinking about or believing to be true, something that someone told me? Is it based on facts, or is it based on my perception of something, which may be very different than somebody else's perception of something? So I think there's just a lot of humility that has to come into play there, where we're willing to look at them honestly, turn them over, and challenge them if need be, to go, okay, I see why I feel the way that I do. And given everything that I know, given everything that I've been through, it's understandable why I would feel the way that I do. But maybe is there more to the picture that I'm not seeing or that I missed along the way that might make me feel differently? And that oftentimes I think is a good first step to at least acknowledging that they do not have the ultimate say-so in our lives. And we don't have to, if we did feel a certain way, we can change our minds. We can feel a different way. We can admit that we were wrong. We can turn around and go like, you know what? I acted based on my feelings, which were very emotionally driven, and it might not have been how I should have acted in that moment. And I owe someone an apology. Like, it's just a lot of growth and grace can come from that. So, like, step one, be willing to be wrong. Be willing to let yourself be challenged and to look at them and go like, okay, it was understandable, but maybe it ultimately wasn't right.
It's okay to challenge your feelings, then, is what you're saying. I mean, I think we're all feelers, and we can pick up on something and assign even feelings to it, where maybe that person didn't mean it quite the way they did, but that's the way it felt, and I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah. You know, for me, and Kenk and Misty know this, I think you've heard me say this over and over again, from a practical point of view, a 24-hour rule when I'm feeling something, especially when I'm feeling any kind of hurt, has saved so many apologies, because I never said the thing that I thought I wanted to say so badly, because 24 hours later, God has been at work helping me see things from a different point of view. So that's just a Sallyism for you right there, but it can be, it can save me from many, many apologies.
Much better than my 24-second rule.
There's a reason we're laughing at that.
But also, I mean, talking about not being a slave to your feelings, which that also means we don't have to live in that place of indecision, overwhelmed, feeling stuck, which I think society constantly tries to put on us. We can choose to not stay in that space, which is good news.
Exactly. It's not all bad news where it's just trying, it's no way trying to invalidate people's feelings. And I say that in the chapter too, because I'm sure there's some folks who will grab their pitchfork like, what do you mean I can't feel this way? It's very valid. Like, come on. So it's like, it's not to invalidate you, but it is, there are 8 billion people on this planet. And if all of our feelings are the truth, then we've got a problem, because now what is actually truth? Like, so that's where it's kind of calling to light. Like when we're assigning it the language of my feelings are my truth, you're giving your feelings, for better or for worse, you're giving them power that they should not have. Like you can speak life over yourself or speak death. And if you're like, I feel anxious, so my truth is I am an anxious person, you just put something on yourself that God did not mean for it to be on your life. So we just kind of have to be careful of like what we're saying is our truth when we're saying you feel a certain way, because it might not be good, it might not be healthy, and it certainly might not be true.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. I mean, if I truly followed my feelings every day, half the time I wouldn't be in the studio. I'm tired. I want to sleep longer. I mean, think of all
that was making you mad.
See?
Well, I just don't want to see Misty.
There's me assigning things, assigning feelings.
But really, when you think about it, you're right. The world would be so different, because there's a lot of stuff that, bad things that would happen, things that would never happen. Because like I said, I would never overcome, inertia, get out of bed and come into work each day. Because you don't wake up right sometimes.
That is true. That is true. I love the word inertia. That was good.
That's a fun word. Kent got some schooling.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I used it right. My wife is smarter than I am. She probably would have used it right. I think if there was one universal, it would be, I'll be happy when, and you've got a blank there. Talk about that chapter.
I mean, fill in the blank, right? It's when we all have that thing where we're like, I'll be happy when I have that job. I'll be happy when I have the hot husband. I'll be happy when I have 3 kids and a picket fence and a golden retriever in the farm in Oklahoma. Whatever it is, like we all have our thing where we're like, okay, when that happens, that's when I will be happy, or when I will be different, or that's when I will unlock this like deeper sense of fulfillment and joy. And that's just not true. Throw that in there, because that's not what God wants for us. He's not hitching our ability to have joy on any sort of earthly accomplishment or this material thing or something that can be taken away from us. So it's challenging that, and it's saying, you know what, there's a difference between happiness and joy. And a lot of happiness in this world might come from, okay, I worked hard and I got this thing and it made me happy. But it's not going to keep you happy, because I think a lot of us know that then the next thing happens, and then there's the next thing, and then you want that, and you're like, okay, actually now I want this. And it's this like never-ending pursuit, like the pursuit of happiness. There's no finish line with that. Whereas what God is offering us is like, no, actually you have this joy that's accessible inside of you. And it has nothing to do with where you're at in this world and what kind of earthly possessions or things or accolades you are adding under your belt. It is there for you to access even on the worst day that you have had. And you might have to do a little bit of work to access it, because it's a muscle that you're probably going to need to work on if it hasn't been worked in a while. But it's so much better and freer to be able to tap into that and know that that's there for you, instead of having to rely on these completely uncontrollable things to like magically cross your path or end up in your bank account when you're like, hey, I can't really control all of that.
You know what it sounds like you're talking about is the mystery of contentment, which seems so unattainable. Yet it almost sounds like a sin, because then, you know, if you're just content with the way things are, well, don't you need to get off your keister and do something? But I think maybe that's where true joy comes from, where you are with God right now. But I think that's why. Do you ever really enjoy your vacation? Some people do, some people don't. Some people, it takes them a really long time to finally get there, but to really just be in the now, in peace, happiness, contentment, I think that's a monster everyone's trying to tackle to the ground. And I don't know that anybody ever gets there, but
I think you're saying that no matter what, all your dreams could come true, but you will find something to pick at. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if it's by the time I get to this point in my career, or by the time this happens, then I'll really be happy. There's so many conditions, and you just never arrive. Is what you're saying.
I call those the yeah buts. Yeah, but you know, I thought it would be this way. Yeah, but I was expecting that. You know,
that's Erica's next book, The Yeah But.
You're welcome.
Well, I mean, it's a really clever trick of the enemy, though, because he'll keep us completely distracted on all of these things where we just miss it along the way. We miss all of the opportunities to feel actual joy because we're so focused on the yeah buts, where we're like, yeah, but what about this? Or what about this? It's like, that's what all of this is, right? He's like dangling the carrot in a different direction so you don't notice the good thing that's happening over here that you could have noticed, and you could have noticed yesterday, and you could have noticed last week too, but you were so focused on the other direction, where he's like, gotcha, you won't be satisfied because you think it's over here, and then I'm going to move it over here, and now we're going to go this way, and you're just going to be on this loop that you're just in the loop, so you got to get yourself out of it.
Yep. That's true. That's good. So what is the bottom line when we walk away from this? What is one thing you're really trying to leave with people?
I think one of the biggest overarching themes with it is you got to take the pressure off of yourself. Because I think at the core, so many of these, that is an underlying theme where we accepted this pressure that wasn't actually ours to hold in the first place. And it's weighing us down. It's keeping us tired, it's keeping us discontent, and it's also keeping us kind of resentful or missing out on what God actually has for us. So it's like, put down your backpack, open it up, take out all the bricks that you didn't even know were there in the first place, and see how much lighter you can walk. You're still gonna have to walk, you're still gonna have to carry a backpack, but it's gonna be a heck of a lot easier to get there.
I like that.
Me too.
Just put a lighter pack on. That's good. That's really good. Thank you, Erica. This is really good. If people want to know more about you, how can they find you?
Sure, thank you for having me. You can head to ericagwynn.com/books. The book is there, pre-order bonuses, and a sneak peek of the first chapter, all that good stuff are all there. You can connect with me on Instagram at Erica Ligenza, which is on the cover of the book. It's Ligenza, and that is the best place to connect with me.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. Appreciate your time. It was really good.
Thanks for having me.